Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam. More and more foreigners are coming to Vietnam, particularly Hanoi, to take advantage of the economic development here. But apart from job opportunities, they can also enjoy a lot of adventures here. In our program today, we'll have a conversation with Nichols, a marketing expert and also an adventure enthusiast. He will share with us some ideas to enjoy the most exciting moments in the city. Hello, Blake. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
First of all, could you tell us a little bit about the reasons for you to live in Hanoi?
I used to live in Kenya before I came here. And I lived in Kenya for 3 years. And I loved living in a different country than America. So I looked for other countries that were as exciting as Kenya. And I have some family that lives here in Vietnam. So I started looking at Hanoi, and I applied for jobs here, and I got a job at a company here. So I came to Hanoi. I worked at that job for a year, and then I left, and I left the job, but I didn't leave Hanoi. I stayed in Hanoi, and I'm glad I did. I've had a lot of fun.
And what about the work that you are doing here?
Sure. So I'm a lecturer at Vietnam National University and a lecturer at FTU, Foreign Trade University. But I also work with Portland State University and a program called VOI, which helps companies from Vietnam enter the USA market. This is a partnership between the government of Oregon and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But I also work with the Ministry of Science and Technology on some projects and other little consulting projects as they come up.
After living here for a while, what do you think of some interesting features of Hanoi in comparison with other cities that you have been to?
So I've traveled all over Southeast Asia. I've traveled all over Vietnam, and I keep coming back to Hanoi. I feel like Hanoi has a personality that Ho Chi Minh City is a beautiful city, but it's just a big city. Hanoi is its own, it has a special feel here, and it's what drives me back here. I think also what gets me excited is I love the north of Vietnam. I love North Vietnam. And I travel to Ha Giang, I travel to Dien Bien Phu, I travel to so many other areas in the north of Vietnam. Even down to like Phom Nha Khai Bang, you know? And it's so close to all of these places. Oh, and Ninh Binh. Ninh Bing's maybe my second favorite place in Vietnam. Also, I like the food here a lot. I think that Hanoi has a really nice selection of some of my favorite Vietnamese foods. And so I've actually gained weight since I moved here because I can't stop eating the delicious foods here. Another thing about Hanoi is the parks and lakes. It's a very beautiful city, and there's always something happening. Since it's the city where the government is focused, there's always exciting things happening here. A lot of companies that are putting money into events and things like that here that are really exciting to go to.
Well, as an adventure enthusiast, how do you satisfy your love for adventure in Hanoi and Vietnam?
Probably the most adventurous thing I do is I put on my helmet and I drive on the streets here. That right there is pretty adventurous. But actually, I learned how to drive a motorbike here in Vietnam. So I just got on my bike. I bought a bike. My second week I moved here. I bought a bike, and actually last year I drove from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City by myself. I took 20 days, and I visited all of the places I wanted to go to, and explored Vietnam, and that was really cool. Some other things that I do, I'll go to Cat Ba and do rock climbing. I'll do trekking around Sapa. I'm actually going this weekend to Sapa to go trekking. Yeah.
Do you want to go by Cyclo? Can I invite you to go by Cyclo? Hello. Do you want to go by Cyclo?
No, thanks.
Be on TV? No? Okay. Cyclo? Want to bang Cyclo? It's a true experience. You sure? Is around? Welcome.
How long?
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
It's okay?
Okay. It's rather here. Come over.
Yeah, so we do. Good team met. 你们chua som lam. Hakuna Matata. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
200,000.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh my goodness, thank you.
Recently, you had an experience of driving a Cyclo in the crowded old quarter of Hanoi. Before that experience, what was your impression of the Cyclos here?
I loved them. In fact, one time my first time ever, I took a Cyclo. I was curious about them. And it was when I used to live about maybe 5 kilometers from here. And I decided it was a good time to try the Cyclo. So I paid a Cyclo to take me 5 kilometers from the old quarter all the way home. So we're going on like major roads. So I'd ridden in one, and so I for a long time. It took like, I don't know, more than an hour and a half. It was a long time, but it was great. And I'd seen people driving around, driving Cyclos around. So I was always, it's sort of like a key part of what makes Hanoi special. But when I actually drove one, I got a whole new appreciation.
Could you describe some difficulties and your feelings during the Cyclo challenge?
I was hopeless, looking for passengers, thinking, please, I'm being filmed on TV. I can't just not pick up anybody. And then I was really kind of scared when I was taking those people around because I didn't know there was a brake. And so I would pedal backwards, and it was really hard because they were heavy, and so it would keep pushing me forward. Probably one of the biggest challenges is getting people to trust you to sit in this cart that you're going to push them around. It was very challenging to get them to do that. Most of these people I took around, they were foreigners. They were visiting Hanoi. And they saw the craziness on the streets, and so if they're going to sit down in a front row seat for the craziness on the street, it was difficult to get people to trust me.
And how did you manage to make some money when driving the Cyclo?
So I convinced them because I saw them and they were with a guide. They had a guide, and I went up and I talked to him, and I spoke a little Vietnamese, and then switched to English. And I said, how about giving them a real experience in Hanoi? I mean, it's very rare you'll see a foreigner driving a Cyclo. And so he convinced them that it was going to be safe. And so they sat down and rode around. So I don't think I really convinced the people who rode with me. I convinced their tour operator that it was going to be okay. They said, how much? And I said, 200,000. And they said, yeah, that seems right. So they were visiting from Germany. They had been traveling around, I think they had been to Thailand and Vietnam. And it was their last stop on their Southeast Asia tour. And I think they were leaving the next day to go back to Germany. And they wanted to have an experience. And I think they got one.
And finally, what are your recommendations for expats and foreigners to make the most of their time in Hanoi and Vietnam?
Just be adventurous. You know, there's so many people warn tourists about don't speak English to the people at Wang Kim Lake. They're going to try to rip you off. Don't ride in the Cyclos. Things like that. It's all, as far as I know, it's all false. I mean, you can talk to anybody. You can ride in the Cyclo with no problem. If someone charges you a little bit higher, it's not going to be $100 higher. It might be $1 or $2 higher than what you might pay. And so just be adventurous and don't worry about it. I mean, just have fun. Go take a Cyclo. Go to Ta Hien Street. Just have fun and remember that Hanoi is a very safe city.
Well, Blake, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some very exciting stories.
Thank you so much. Very good.
Well, that's all for our Sharing Vietnam today. We look forward to hearing more and more exciting stories from adventure lovers in Hanoi and Vietnam. Thank you so much for watching and see you again next time.